This is the Gerry Callahan Show.
New rule, to quote Bill Maher. If you didn't say anything when ABC News canceled Roseanne Barr, their star of their number one show, for a tweet, if you didn't say anything when Disney canceled Gina Carano for a tweet, when play-by-play man Grant Napier got canceled for saying all lives matter, when Chris Harrison, host of The Bachelor, got canceled for showing empathy, asking for grace for a kid who, a contestant who went to an antebellum party, lost his job. If you didn't say anything when Tucker Carlson was canceled because they didn't like what he was saying about lots of things, COVID, Ukraine. If you didn't say anything when Spotify was pressured to cancel Joe Rogan for talking about COVID, if you didn't say anything when Netflix, the employees of Netflix, were demanding Dave Chappelle be taken off their platform for talking about trans issues and being transphobic, if you didn't say anything when the Biden administration pressured social media platforms like Facebook and Twitter and Instagram to ban conservatives for questioning Dr. Fauci or the vaccine, if you didn't say anything when they deplatformed the sitting president of the United States under pressure from Democrats and liberals, just shut up today. Just save it. How do you like it? How do you like it now? Your guy, your hero, your favorite late night comedian, Jimmy Kimmel, has been canceled. Now, we don't know yet if he's been fired, but I hope he is. He deserved it. Let's just review what Jimmy Kimmel did. I love this idea that Trump is just taking critics, just forcing companies to fire his critics. Jimmy Kimmel could have stayed on the air. He could have criticized Trump. He could have continued what he's been doing for 10 years, just hating Trump supporters every night. He went on the air on Monday night and knowingly lied about Trump, knowingly lied about the murder of Charlie Kirk. He said that he was killed by one of his own, by a MAGA guy. He knew that wasn't true. He did that anyway. He lied, and he lied about a really serious subject. That's why he's no longer on the air. Did the FCC, Commissioner Brendan Carr, say he was going to investigate? Yes, that's his job. But the real story is that people around the country are enraged. They're disgusted. They're furious. They watched Charlie Kirk get murdered. They are right now. They're still sick to their stomachs at what we witnessed a week ago in Utah, and they watched this a-hole go on the air and mock them, blame them. Jimmy Kimmel, once again, knew the guy, the shooter, Tyler Robinson, wasn't a MAGA guy, but he hates MAGA so much that he thought he could just go ahead and lie. That's what he did. And two companies, Sinclair and the Nexstar, the other company, who own ABC stations, they were disgusted. You know why? Because their viewers spoke out. This is not like just an average Trump joke, like making fun of Trump or making fun of Melania or Vance or whatever. This was something that cuts to the heart. It goes right to the heart. This is something people are still furious about, still trying to get their minds around it. And they watched this clown, this fool, mock them, and they were pissed. And it's telling that these stations are mostly in the West, down South, Midwest. These are the kind of people, these are MAGA people. And they saw this clip, even if they weren't watching live. And they said, we've had enough. And Sinclair demanded an apology from Jimmy Kimmel and a donation to a Charlie Kirk charity. And Jimmy Kimmel said, no, he's so arrogant. He's so insufferable. He said no. They said, well, hit the road. You're done. That's the free market working. That's a victory for common sense and decency. You can't go on the air, on the public airways, and lie, knowingly lie. That's what he did. He got what he deserved. This is a great day. This is a big victory for Trump, for MAGA, for decency. He's a scumbag, all right? And the people crying now, the people talking about the First Amendment, didn't give a shit when the Biden administration fully weaponized their FBI and other federal agencies to deplatform, to cancel conservatives. They did it they did it when they weren't even in office. When Trump was president, they pressured social media companies to cancel him, and they did. And you know who celebrated? Jimmy Kimmel. That's who. You know who celebrated when Fox News fired Tucker Carlson? Jimmy Kimmel. He was the biggest fanatic out there. He wished death on the unvaccinated, and he did it nightly. He said they shouldn't be treated at hospitals. He was reveling in this. He loved cancel culture. He loved the weaponized Biden administration. He was their biggest fan. There's example after example of Jimmy Kimmel celebrating when people were canceled, banned, fired, suspended under pressure from the government. People just don't seem to understand this. Everybody online, everyone, I'm hearing it. Oh, don't we have a First Amendment? What happened to free speech? Jimmy Kimmel's free to speak. Jimmy Kimmel can do a podcast today. He can speak in front of a big crowd. He can go on cable news. He can go online. He can say what he wants. But these are the public airways, and there are companies that he must answer to. Sinclair and Nexstar are the companies. They weren't happy with what Jimmy Kimmel said, and they said, get out there and say you're sorry. And he said no. He could have survived this. Hell, he could have continued nightly to mock Trump and Trump supporters. But he can't just go out there and lie. He can't go out there and knowingly lie about the person who shot and killed Charlie Kirk. It was disgusting. We talked about it yesterday, and it wasn't funny. He's not funny. He's just an extension of MSNBC, just another angry left-wing nut who went on rants every night and lost the company money and didn't have good ratings. And the company said, we have had enough. This could be my favorite part of this whole story. So last night in Jimmy Kimmel's slot, they played Celebrity Family Feud. And you just wait. They'll probably get better ratings. But on Friday night, tomorrow night, Sinclair is going to air a tribute to Charlie Kirk. If that's not winning, I don't know what is. But let's get back to this notion that this is authoritarian, this is fascist. Where were you when they literally pressured Facebook to take down anybody who questioned the vaccine or criticized Fauci? Where were you when they literally went to Silicon Valley and pressured Twitter and Instagram and Facebook to ban and cancel right-wing voices? RFK, that was the first thing Biden did when he got elected, was demand social media companies ban, cancel RFK Jr. I don't remember Jimmy Kimmel or Van Jones or Chuck Schumer screaming and crying about that. This is just so rich. The people screaming and crying about Kimmel didn't give a damn about, you name it, Roseanne or Gina Carano or Megyn Kelly, who was canceled for talking about kids' Halloween costumes. She didn't dress up in blackface. She talked about kids dressing up as Beyonce. She was canceled. You know what Jimmy Kimmel did? He wore blackface. You know what Jimmy Fallon did? He wore blackface. But that wasn't a problem. But when Megyn Kelly talked about it, ABC fired her. And these same people, these same Jake Tappers and Brian Stelters didn't say a word, did not kick and scream and cry about the First Amendment. Jimmy Kimmel didn't get arrested last night. That's not, if he got arrested for speaking about, that would be a First Amendment issue. This is not. This is a company, a private company, saying we have had enough. But let's get to some of my favorite. Let's go down let's look back at Jimmy Kimmel, this absolute fraud, this disgusting, unctuous a-hole. Again, he's not funny. He's not a comedian. He's just another political activist. He's just another Joy Reid or Rachel Maddow or Jake Tapper, just nightly going on rants about Trump and Trump supporters. What did he have to say when Tucker Carlson got fired for things he said? Was that a First Amendment issue? Was that cancel culture, or was Jimmy celebrating it? Oh, that's the problem Jimmy has. He has there's a lot of video out there of Jimmy just rejoicing when other people were canceled for things they said. Here's Jimmy on Tucker.
Fox News has severed bow ties with Tucker Carlson. After all these years, they are parting ways, which means he was fired. I mean, that's really what parting ways means. Tucker couldn't be reached for comment. He's already on a plane to Moscow to meet with his manager. But what a shock. I mean, what an absolutely delightful shock this is. Now Tucker can spend more time at home tanning his testicles and touching himself to that sexy green M&M. Sadly, he's probably not done poisoning old people's brains. The question now is, where will he do it next? Will he go to OAN? Will he go to Newsmax? Will he crawl back up Satan's fiery beehole from whence he came? We don't know.
I don't even get it. Honestly, am I missing something? Where's the joke? Tanning his testicles, crawling up. He lost it. He lost it years ago. He used to be funny. And I've explained this many times, but he made a decision, just like Howard Stern did. He knew he said a lot of offensive things. He knew there's video out there of him pretending to grab a woman's ass. He knew he dressed in blackface. He knew he wouldn't survive if he didn't sell out, if he didn't become a member of the whole woke crowd in mainstream media. That was self-preservation. And then he just kind of enjoyed his role as a unfunny Trump hater. But we got more. We got Kimmel on Roseanne, who was canceled for a tweet. Her show was #1. Unlike yours, Jimmy, her show made money for ABC. Here he was when Roseanne got fired.
On the subject of terrible things posted online, the biggest story of the day today was Roseanne. Roseanne, you're not going to believe this, but she tweeted something outrageous. I know. Yeah, right. The president did it too. It's crazy. Anyway, ABC decided to cancel their highest rated show, Roseanne, following a tweet in which Roseanne compared an African-American woman, a former advisor to President Obama, to an ape, which did not sit well with ABC management or anyone with a brain, really. So they announced that this first season of the show is also its last, which is a huge blow to business. I mean, we don't have much on this network. We're hoping the NBA Finals goes 11 games this year. We're still airing America's Funniest Home Videos, okay? Roseanne was a very bigly hit for ABC, and we needed it. But I say, why just listen, hear me out. Just because Roseanne is gone doesn't mean the whole show has to go. The show must go on. That's what we say in show business. And with that said, I have an idea that I think makes this work for everyone.
Enough. You know what? I'll give him credit. He admitted she was a star. She made money. He didn't. He lost money. His ratings were terrible. I honestly believe, and I know Brendan Carr explained his role in this, but I honestly believe that Sinclair and Nick and all the affiliates said, we don't need this. We're not making money. People hate him. They're pissed. And they said, okay, why don't you apologize? And this arrogant dick said, I'm not going to apologize for lying, knowingly lying about the person who killed Charlie Kirk. Do we have one more? Is on him? Is this Kimmel on COVID?
Yes, it is.
Excellent. Let's listen to his take on people who were right about the COVID vax.
Hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy.
God, he is disgusting. What a piece of garbage he is, honest to God. And he'll be just like Chuck Todd, and Jim Acosta, and Don Lemon. He'll do some podcast and he'll show his true colors. Not that he didn't, for the most part, on ABC, but he'll go on these angry rants every day about Trump and Trump supporters. And you will see just what a little unctuous, spiteful man he is. But we got so much to get to. I want to get to this Zuckerberg clip just to remind people of what we lived through for 4 years under Joe Biden. The idea that Brendan Carr, FCC commissioner, shouldn't chime in on this, shouldn't be involved in this at all. When he explains, we'll get to Carr, he explains exactly what his role is. This, you want to talk about government overreach. You want to talk about weaponizing the government. Here's Zuckerberg on with Joe Rogan explaining what the Biden regime did to stifle, to silence voices of dissent. This is the federal government. This is the executive branch. This is what they did to their critics for 4 years. Go ahead.
They pushed us super hard to take down things that were honestly were true, right? I mean, they basically pushed us and said, you know, anything that says that vaccines might have side effects, you basically need to take down. And I was just like, well, we're not going to do that. Like, we're clearly not going to do that. I mean, that is kind of inarguably true.
Who is they? Who's telling you to take down things that
it was
talk about vaccine side effects?
It was people in the Biden administration. I think these people from the Biden administration would call up our team and like scream at them and curse, and it's like
call them up and scream at them to take down tweets or take down Facebook posts. That's what we lived through. And these people who are so offended, so upset, talking about the end of democracy, these people, they said nothing. In fact, they celebrated it. Jimmy Kimmel celebrated when Twitter canceled Donald Trump when he was the sitting president under pressure from the Trump haters who were about to take office a month later. He was suspended in January of 2021 under pressure from Biden's people who called and screamed at them. And they said nothing. You heard nothing from CNN or MSNBC. I know there are some people on the right who are saying they're uncomfortable with this because of what Brendan Carr said. Get Brendan Carr. But, and I understand that. You don't want the federal government involved in this. I don't think the federal government was the driving force. I think the free market was. And B, even if Brendan Carr had a role, I don't care. We are done. We can't have two sets of rules. We can't have one side that uses the full force of the federal government to shut their enemies up, their adversaries up, and the other side say, I don't know, maybe that's inappropriate. The hell with that. This is, to quote Chris Murphy, this is war, not real war. This is a culture war, a political war. And I'm sick of saying, that wouldn't be appropriate. That might be against the rules. When they did what we just explained for 4 years, when they canceled people for saying all lives matter. they canceled people. Chris Harrison from The Bachelor, hell, they ruined him for saying we should show a little grace to some kid who went to an antebellum party. They canceled Aunt Jemima and Uncle Ben. And now canceling this asshole. And they're going to say, oh, wait, that's against the First Amendment. No, it is not A. And B, the role Brendan Carr played here, the FCC commissioner played, was completely appropriate. The hell was saying, you're uncomfortable with this. So what? How comfortable were you for 4 years when they used every resource they had in the federal government to take the First Amendment rights away from people? Here's Brendan Carr explaining his role.
FCC Chairman Brendan Carr is here now with the latest. Sir, welcome to the program. Can you explain that difference? Go into more detail.
Yeah, broadcasters are different than any other form of communication, including here. We're on cable right now. Fox News doesn't have an FCC license. CNN doesn't. But ABC, CBS, NBC, those broadcast stations do. And with that license comes a unique obligation to operate in the public interest. And over the years, the FCC walked away from enforcing that public interest obligation. I don't think we're better off as a country for it. But look, President Trump ran directly at these legacy broadcast outlets, and he exposed them to these market forces. And a lot of these affiliate groups said, to your point, we're tired of carrying this stuff. Late night shows, something's gone seriously awry there. They went from going for applause, from laugh lines to applause lines. They went from being court jesters that would make fun of everybody in power to being court clerics and enforcing a very narrow political ideology. And Nexstar, as you noted, stood up and said, look, we have the license and we don't want to run this anymore. We don't think it serves the interests of our community. Sinclair did the same thing. So there's more work to go, but I'm very glad to see that America's broadcasters are standing up to serve the interests of their community. We don't just have this progressive foie gras coming out from New York and Hollywood.
And
Progressive foie gras. He's right. He's right. And again, Kimmel lied. I know we've talked about this in the past. We've got to do it again because there's been a lot of debate about cancel culture online. A lot of debate. I mentioned the difference between cancel culture from the left and cancel culture from the right. And I know I'm not the only one to point this out, but conservatives for 4 or 5 years were canceled for telling the truth. You could get canceled for saying Rachel Levine is a man, or Dr. Fauci is a liar, or the vax doesn't stop transmission, or a 4-year-old should not you shouldn't try to change the sex of a 4-year-old child. That could get you canceled. That is true, objectively true. What Kimmel said is a lie. Kimmel was canceled for lying. That's a big difference. No one should ever be canceled for telling the truth. And many, many conservatives were. They wanted to stop you from telling the truth. That's what the Biden regime, that was their objective. Stop you from telling the truth. Stop saying that a man can't get pregnant. A woman has a penis. You say that, and you could get canceled. You would get canceled. Kimmel lied. That's what the difference is. When you say MAGA killed Charlie Kirk, you are knowingly, objectively lying. That's what he did. And as Brendan Carr points out, you're supposed to be a comedy show. So you're lying just about your role here. You're not supposed to be an extension of MSNBC, which is what Colbert and Kimmel are. That's the difference. There's many other people debating this. Give me Portnoy's tweet because he makes a good point and explains why this isn't cancel culture. This is consequence culture. Portnoy points out, he says, Kimmel getting canned. I'm seeing lots of people talking about the hypocrisy of cancel culture. To me, cancel culture is when people go out of their way to dig up old tweets, videos, looking for dirt on someone they don't like in an effort to get them fired. Like if Kimmel got canceled for the shit he did on the Man Show, that would be cancel culture. But when a person says something that a ton of people find offensive, rude, dumb in real time, and then the person is punished for it, that's not cancel culture. That's consequences for your actions. He's right. He didn't get canceled for wearing blackface. He didn't get canceled for grabbing some woman's ass on the Man Show. He didn't get canceled for the thousands of things he said in the past that may have been offensive. Hell, he didn't get canceled for celebrating COVID people, unvaxxed people dying. He got canceled for lying, for knowingly lying, for knowing it wasn't a MAGA person who killed Charlie Kirk. Hell, everyone knew that. You knew that in 10 minutes after Kirk was dead. He did it Monday night. That's 5 days. We knew Tyler Robinson was not a MAGA guy. We knew he was a trans terrorist. We knew he was a left-winger. His mother said it. He said it. Everybody knew. And the host of an ABC late night show knew that, went on the air and lied. That's why Sinclair was pissed. That's why Nexstar was pissed. That's why they demanded an apology. Perfectly appropriate for a company to demand an apology from one of its employees who lied. That's the difference. And the reaction is just hysterical. It really is. Again, keep in mind, none of these people gave a damn when whoever, you name it, Roseanne, Chris Harrison, Gina Carano, was canceled. Gina Carano was canceled for a tweet that offended, the COVID crazies. And none of these people gave a damn. CNN, they're in an uproar. MSNBC, all the usual stuff. Chris Hayes, Brian Stelter, they're pissed. Van Jones, get me Van Jones. This is the end of democracy, is what it is, because this clown was taken off the air. This clown, again, with bad ratings, was losing millions for the company. The real story is why he was still on the air and why they didn't do this a long time ago. But here's the reaction from CNN.
That is why we exist. Not to knuckle under, not to do what we're told, but to stand up and to say, listen, if you want to pull these licenses, then we're going to go to court and we'll be in the court of public opinion. But you don't get to go on a podcast and set policy for American media, for an American media institution that's been around a lot longer than me, you, or Donald Trump. This is a red line that has been crossed for our industry, for the First Amendment, for the right of people to speak. There was nothing hateful about what was said, and even hateful speech is protected. This is not acceptable. If you are going to run a media organization that's called a news organization, you have to stand up to government bullying anywhere in the world, and certainly in the United States.
Well, the job should be to, speak truth to power, even when there are people who don't like the word truth anymore.
Right there. The CNN lady says, the job is to speak truth to power. Lady, it wasn't true. He lied. And Van Jones says there was nothing hateful. Everything Kimmel said was hateful. He mocked Charlie Kirk and his followers after Charlie Kirk was murdered by a left-wing fanatic. And he says, there's nothing hateful. This is a line that was crossed. Gee, Van, was a line crossed? When Roseanne and Megyn Kelly and Tucker Carlson get canceled, was there a line there? Oh, no, because you hate those people. So that's different, right? The hypocrisy is just exploding all over the cable news world. Just remarkable. Couple more from this. Get this Keith Olbermann tweet. Keith Olbermann, to me, he is, I don't say he's honest, but he can't control himself. Unlike Kimmel and Colbert and Van Jones and the rest of these clowns, Jake Tapper, this is what they think. Keith Olbermann says it. I guess I should give him credit for that. But this absolute loon who has lost 100 jobs, who lives alone, who doesn't have any kids, no family, I think he has cats, and just rants from his Central Park apartment. He actually tweets this and hasn't taken it down as far as we know. Burn in hell, Sinclair, alongside Charlie Kirk. Burn in hell, Sinclair, for taking a show that was losing millions off the air. Burn in hell, Charlie Kirk. Why should Charlie Kirk burn in hell, Keith? Could you expound on that? You bitter old fool. Burn in hell, Charlie Kirk. That, I would say, is a new low. Really is. But all right, let's do Scott Jennings, because he's great. And Jennings goes to battle every day with these clowns. And it's going to continue. It's going to continue. Jimmy Kimmel will speak out. All his friends. Chuck Schumer threw a tantrum about this, calling it authoritarian and fascist and everything. Do you know Chuck Schumer had a pipeline to Jimmy Kimmel? Jimmy Kimmel got his talking points from Chuck Schumer. This is a tool, a Democrat tool who's been taken off the air, which is why they're throwing tantrums. But here's Scott Jennings attempting to explain the First Amendment. Again, this isn't a First Amendment issue. Jimmy Kimmel can go out there today and say whatever he wants. He can double down. He can kick and scream like Don Lemon and Chuck Todd and Jim Acosta do on their podcasts. He can't use the public airways to knowingly lie. Here's Jennings with this bunch of gaggle of left-wing maniacs. Go ahead.
You use the phrase propaganda, Professor, and I just have to ask you, what do you consider what Jimmy Kimmel was doing every night, or what Stephen Colbert was doing by having on only Democratic guests? Jimmy Kimmel Monday night flat lied about the shooter. Back in the spring, he egged his audience on in cheering on the violence against and wanting, kind of wishing, I think, the downfall of a publicly traded company, Tesla. Do you consider that to be propaganda? Is it good for a business?
Do you consider that to be free speech, Scott?
You use the phrase propaganda.
I'm asking you. You used the words free speech before. Do you consider that free speech?
I consider it to be speech, and he's obviously free to say it.
Will you defend that speech in this country that will defend to the death the speech of others? Will you defend Jimmy Kimmel's speech?
Do I defend Jimmy Kimmel going on television and saying that a shooter from the left?
Right to do so.
He has a right to do so, but he does not have a right to have a television show where he lies his ass off to the American people and attacks this country on a nightly basis.
Whoa. Hold on.
There it is. And of course, Abby Phillips stops him. Abby Phillips, who hates Scott Jennings, even though Scott Jennings has saved her career, even though he's the only reason anyone tunes into her show. But he said it all right there. He has a right to say what he wants. He doesn't have the right to a program on the public airwaves. He doesn't have a right to go on a show that's licensed by the FCC and lie. And that is what he did. It's not complicated, people. It really isn't. It's not the First Amendment. He could say what he wants. He could say hateful things. Contrary to what our Attorney General believes, you have a right to say hateful things. Hate speech isn't a thing. All speech. Most speech is protected by the First Amendment. You can't incite, you can't threaten, but you can say hateful things. And I'm pretty sure I hope someone has explained that to our Attorney General in the next few days. But I know one thing, I'll be tuning in to ABC tomorrow night at 11:30 for the first time in decades, I think, to see the tribute to Charlie Kirk. That is such a great answer to this fool. Bumped, replaced by Charlie Kirk. And it just, Charlie Kirk was a lot of things. I think he was prophetic. He was prescient. He pointed out long ago that Jimmy Kimmel just isn't funny. Nobody thinks he's funny. They just love him because he hates Trump. That's why he was on the air as long as he was. That's why he was a darling during the Biden regime, getting his material directly from Democrats to go out there and attack Trump. That's what he did. And now he can continue to do it. He can go on today with Rachel Maddow. He can go on today with Jim Acosta or whoever. He can go on with Keith Olbermann. They can do a podcast together and talk about how much they hate Trump. He doesn't have a right to the public airways. All right, we got a few more things to get to. I want to get to this Rhode Island teacher because we've talked a lot about the people. We played you the clip yesterday of the MSNBC lady, the misinformation reporter. That's her beat. She covers misinformation. And she flat out said on cable news that no one is celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. It was one of the most bizarre clips. Maybe you can get that played again. But here's a teacher in Rhode Island. And I just want to say that I love this. Because this is how it should work. A teacher who celebrated Charlie Kirk's death and his students are demanding his firing. The students, not the other teachers, not the principal, not the left-wing loons that make up just about every public office in Rhode Island, but the students. Here is Benjamin Philo, a high school teacher in Rhode Island.
I have about as much sympathy for Charlie Kirk right now as I do for all those farmers across the country who want socialist handouts from the government right now. This is a man who hated the LGBTQ community, who hated women's rights, who hated democracy, who thought that he was a big man because he went to college campuses and debated college students and thought he proved how tough he was with his words that he studied ahead of time. What a piece of garbage. this is what happens. I'm curious if we're going to want to take guns away now from who will inevitably be the white man who shot and killed him. Bye, Charlie.
Oh, God, what a disgusting person. And again, I ask this every day. You can think that. You really want to post that? The students at Barrington High are demanding his firing. He's been placed on leave. He will be fired. I think justice will prevail. This is a letter from the superintendent saying, I'm writing to inform you that the teacher at Barrington Public High School has been placed on a paid administrative leave, and we will be conducting a thorough investigation. Really? You need an investigation? Didn't you see the video? This guy wasn't just saying he disagreed with Charlie. He was lying about him, saying he hated LGBT people. No, he didn't. You know the group Gays for Groomers? It's a organization of gay people who are against transitioning children. They had a booth at TP USA events. Charlie welcomed gay people. He didn't hate gay people. He didn't hate anyone. I'm so sick of people lying about Charlie Kirk. They think he's someone he's not. You know, they don't, apparently didn't watch him, didn't listen to him, and they just assume because he's a Christian conservative that he was full of hate. He had no hate in his heart, just the opposite. He was a Christian who lived by his principles, and they can't stand it. You know why? Because he was very effective. Because he went in and changed minds, and they can't stand it. They had a monopoly on poisoning young minds, and here was a guy pushing back, fighting them, trying to do just the opposite of what they did, indoctrinating children into the left-wing world. And Charlie fought back against that, and now they're glad he's dead, and they're saying it online, and they're hopefully paying a price. That lady from MSNBC, what is she watching? These people are everywhere. I watch these videos all day. Libs of TikTok. She doesn't sleep. She just keeps posting video after video of people in government, in the military, in high schools and colleges and elementary schools, celebrating the death of a 31-year-old father and husband and Christian. They're happy a man is dead. And they're going to hate Sunday, man. Sunday, the funeral at State Farm Stadium in Arizona, in Glendale, is going to have 60,000 people, including the president and the vice president. And it's going to be amazing. And you're going to see a whole new wave of these videos. But all right, I have to say, that was a pretty disturbing video. It was not the most disturbing video we saw this week. We didn't get to this yesterday, but I can't stop thinking about it. It's just so disturbing. There's a movement in Dearborn. Now, Dearborn, Michigan is obviously lost. It's gone. Every elected official's an Islamic fanatic. It's run, the mayor, as we'll see, is a Muslim fanatic. Here's a guy, a resident, like a lifelong resident of Dearborn. And he found out that the mayor was going to name a street after an Islamic fanatic. They call him a journalist, but there's plenty of videos out there of him screaming about killing the infidels and Allahu Akbar. And they're naming a street in Michigan after a guy who supports Hezbollah. Hezbollah, a terrorist organization that killed 241 Marines and service members in Lebanon. That organization, he supports them. And the city of Dearborn is naming a street after him. They're honoring him. You think that's bad? It gets worse. A guy stands up at the meeting, the city council stands up and says, I don't support this. This seems a little extreme. Listen to what the mayor of an American city says to a native of the town he represents, a guy who lives in this city and has a problem with this. Listen to what the mayor says to him.
Hezbollah, bombed the embassy in Beirut, and including many Americans. So I just feel it's quite inappropriate.
You are an Islamophobe, and although you live here, I want you to know, as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city, because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence.
You are not welcome in this city, says the mayor, Abdullah Hamad, to a man who lives in that city, who is from that city. He's not welcome in this city. That is disgusting on so many levels. That should infuriate every decent American. A guy is not welcome in his own city because he has an objection to naming a street after a Hezbollah supporter. Man, I don't know. When Pam Bondi's done arresting people for hate speech, maybe she could take a look at what's happened in some of our American cities. Not much different in Lewiston, Maine, and a few other communities, which have just been taken over. Nothing, by the way, from Gretchen Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, nothing. When a citizen, a taxpayer, says, I really don't, his name is Ted Barnum, when he tells a resident he's not welcome there. 40% of Dearborn is Muslim, but they don't, they get out and vote. They support their guys and they put them in office, and that's what you get. A mayor telling someone who lives there, who's from there, he's not welcome there. Just disgusting. All right, we will leave it there. I can't wait. I'm going to get back to watching videos of irate liberals upset that their guy Jimmy is not going to be on tonight. Most of them probably didn't watch. Nobody watched. But they just knew he was one of them. They just knew he hated Donald Trump, so they support him, and they're outraged that he is not going to be on the air. All he had to do was apologize. Anyone, you have a problem with that? Say, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. And he wouldn't do it. He's so stubborn, he's so arrogant, and now he's going to become their martyr. Our martyr is Charlie Kirk. Their martyr is Jimmy Kimmel. We win again. That'll do it for today. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. I'm Gerry Callahan. This is The Callahan Show, and we will do it again tomorrow.
Hospitals get any more overcrowded, they're going to have to make some very tough choices about who gets an ICU bed. That choice doesn't seem so tough to me. Vaccinated person having a heart attack? Yes, come right on in. We'll take care of you. Unvaccinated guy who gobbled horse goo? Rest in peace, Wheezy. You're